Hello and welcome to Two Blokes in a Cave, a vaguely philosophical podcast hosted by me, Carlton Sin, a traditional Catholic and university graduate. And joining me, as always, is the resident fashionista, expert and former silver medalist of Oxley's Best Looking Man, Cameron. Nice to be here.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate the effort that's gone into this opening line. For some reason, I've come second. Probably in reality, I would have placed, so I feel okay with that. Also, I'm also a university graduate, just to jump in there. It makes it feel like I've done jack shit, except rocked up to the Oxley's good-looking man and come second out of probably three. But I'm happy to be here.
Next week, I'll throw in your university credentials, just so the people know you're also very, I said expert.
Yeah, expert.
Expert's pretty loose term these days. Kind of thrown about everything. Yeah. Are you an expert? I'm an expert. What does that mean? Expert of what? I saw something. This is totally off topic already. I saw something in the news, and it was some of these, like some political thing, but it wasn't like political expert. It was like coffee something expert. I'm like, who is this person? They just bring him on. It was like a thing in the background's on fire and it's some bright. And they're like, this guy's like, he loves coffee in the morning. I'm like, why is he here?
Yeah, that's right.
Hello guys, this is me, the expert barista. All right.
Do you love it? They have to fill time and there's like the morning show or something.
Man,
we're cutting
to
expert. He's like,
just,
I won a competition once and I can roast beans and I'll tell you all about it. And they're like, that's great. Thanks for that. We actually really needed to comment on like this coffee cup.
What do you think expert means today? Because I don't think it means
very loose.
I think it's pretty loose.
Well, on TV, they're not bringing in like the Nobel Prize winning expert. They're usually bringing in some guy who they could just get last minute. Like who can we get? Who knows about like
who knows? Yeah, who's vaguely in the field. Throw a label on him. It's kind of incredible what you can do if you throw up. Like if you speak with an authority and someone says, "This is my friend Cameron. He's a philosophy professor." You'd be like, "Oh,
yeah."
And then you'd listen to him speak and that would be ruined. But, before he was speaking, you'd think this guy's probably really impressive. It's a great philosophical insight. I'm only joking. You've got great insight. But there is...
Depends what the topic is, I suppose. But yeah.
I just think it makes me laugh. Like the expert... I thought that was... I've often referred to you as the philosophical expert here. So I thought it was very funny.
Well, the whole point is the main points are vaguely philosophical.
It is vaguely,
to hone the point that we're philosophical, but I mean, it's coming
philosophical adjacent.
Yeah,
we're just a couple of guys enjoying having good, deep conversations, and we hope you will also enjoy 100%. Those conversations. So, what have we got today, Cameron?
Well, we're going to do a first thought on a thought experiment. We've done a few so far. We've probably covered like 3 or 4 of the major ones with Theseus,
the big dogs,
ship, and all that. There's a thought experiment, classic philosophical idea. Sit down, think of a concept, debate what the outcome is. What was your thoughts on it? It's like the trolley car one. But anyway, I'll read it out. It's going to be quite relatable, I think, because most people have probably thought of this before. But give me a sec. Well, this one came from Brendos. He sent us something. It says it's a Nozick experiment machine, but effectively, I'll read it. It is the Matrix, and would you choose it? But I'll read out what this says here. It's from I'll paraphrase it from an internet site. A mad scientist invents a machine that would allow you to live in a personalized simulation, similar to a video game, or effectively the Matrix. A scientist can guarantee that you will be happy in this machine as it caters to your every whim and fantasy. And while you're in the machine, you won't know you're in the machine and you won't even know it's a simulation. That being said, every person and everything you encounter within the machine is simply a programmed simulation and nothing's real, and nothing in the entire thing will be real, people or things. The catch is, would you choose to live in this machine and never go back to the real world? What would you do? Would you spend the rest of your life effectively happy in a fake world, or would you choose to live your life in the real world?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, obviously, I'd like to live in the real world. I think is, I like that. I don't even know where to start in my, just abject horror that anyone would choose to live in the Matrix, essentially over living in the real world. And part of it is, I think a lot of people go through life without actually living. Yeah. And that might, and if you are someone who maybe struggles to find meaning in life, that might be very appealing to think and escape like this, because it is essentially escaping reality to live in a fantasy, which is, it's been sold as a good thing, but I couldn't really think of much or anything worse than living. Even if you don't know, it does sound of horror. Yeah, it does sound pretty horrible. I mean, part of I don't know, you're experience or your thoughts on this specific point, but I don't think there's a better feeling of failing and overcoming to achieve a goal. And it sounds like if you just get everything you want and everything goes well, like we've talked briefly, I think, and if we haven't, we'll talk much more about it maybe today. But happiness being like, it's not, happiness is what you get to experience when you complete a goal or when you do something worthy and you overcome to achieve. It's not something that you should feel just like all the time forever. You kind of, and it's I'm kind of, you kind of need to experience loss and hardship to appreciate goodness and good times and success. If you never experience losing, then winning is dulled by virtue of you having, this is all you know. Not that I'm saying, there's a famous, I think it's an Australian squash player, I want to say, or a tennis player that never lost a professional.
Okay.
My dad brings it up all the time. He's like, I reckon that'd be pretty cool. That would be very cool. But that's not to say that person didn't experience loss or training and things like that were hard. But you need things that challenge you. Otherwise, it would be a relatively, like, it's a boring life. And to elaborate one step further, people who look at like a trust fund kid as lucky, I actually think it would be an incredibly terrible life to just have been given things because everything becomes kind of meaningless and boring, and those people typically fall apart, or the majority of them fall apart.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty high stats on that.
Well, even the Forbes list of like richest people, I think it's some crazy, and Brennos can probably check this, but like it's some crazy percentage are self-made people.
Yeah.
And like the generational wealth everybody talks about, like all these big bad people, most people, I think most generational wealth is spent by the third generation or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard something like that.
It's like, it doesn't last that long because by the time you get down, like these people are so entitled, or they just believe that this is, this hedonism and this, kind of following your base passions forever and ever and ever. It doesn't lead to a fulfilling life. It just leads to maybe more and more extreme hedonistic desires to fulfill you, because it's just ultimately vacuous and empty, and you're just stimulating yourself and you become dull to, base pleasures. So, but yeah, that would be basically, before we get too far off into the weeds, I do not think we should ever choose to live in the Matrix or even really dabble in like VR and stuff. I just think it's inhuman, and I don't like where it leads us as a sort of species, I suppose. But I'm firmly in the not going in the machine. I would rather struggle.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Just one real quick. I think Brennan was going to pop in there with a fact. Sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
Hi guys. I was not going to. I was basically telling you that I could not find any self-made regular people. Everything that I'm searching is self-made
billionaires.
Right.
That is
self-made
sort of
rich
vaguely,
people.
Yeah.
That's the stat people are more interested in.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I can keep looking.
Thank you, Brennos. All right, we'll come back in when you have some sweet data. That's okay. We're just learning some of the technology that we've got at our disposal.
Got different
in the
things
studio.
happening every week, actually.
It's very impressive. I'm amazed at how this area has come together. It's been pretty cool. Okay, well let's go through, I guess, and flesh out the reasons why we think, since we seem to be in agreement, and hopefully or potentially we'll be in agreement.
I was worried this was going to be like, we don't want to go in.
Done.
30 minutes of radio silence, and then we'll play some Scrabble or something.
Thank goodness the two of us can talk forever. It's very good.
We've already wasted 10 minutes on nothing. We haven't got there yet.
It's pretty impressive, actually. Okay, these always go way quicker in my head, and then someone's like, hey, mate, it's been 50 minutes. Stop talking. Yeah. Why? I mean, I'm interested in the reasons why you specifically think going in to a machine, to a matrix, is a bad idea, and if those reasons are essentially... Right. The essence of that reason, is it the same as me, or is there something else that motivates you to say, actually, I want to borrow this crap. I want to live. And it reminds me, again, I do such a waffle forever. One of my favorite I think it's Oscar Wilde, says that most people never live, they just exist. Yeah. And I'm like, man, life's for living. Get out there, have a go, and fail, and then get up and try again. That's what life's all about, and that's the mark of a man is to try again.
I do love a good Oscar Wilde quote. They're very good. Someone's very lengthy though, so it's hard for me to memorize them.
I've been learning poetry a little bit.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
Bit of Alexander Pope. All nature is but art unknown to thee. It's a very specific poem.
No, I mean, go back to what you said. I think there's a quote I used to take, and I actually think it's from 30 Rock. I think it's Alec Baldwin's character, and he says something like, because he's playing the stereotypical businessman who's a bit like fast wheeling and dealing. And I'm not going to get this right, but paraphrasing. He says something like, it's the American dream, Liz Lemon. Who's the other girl? It's American dream, Liz Lemon. First guy comes here as an immigrant with nothing, makes lots of money. Second son gets successful as a businessman. Third son is an actor. He has no drive to do anything. I think he says something acting. Like that. Which
he's just pretending to be other people. Yeah, right.
And I think you're right. I think the dilution of wealth. I think when I used to read this up, because I have 20 kids and after 4 or 5 generations, someone who's a billionaire now has like 400 relatives, so it's hard to divvy it. Or they just blow it all through like terrible business means.
I feel like that's the main one.
Or somewhere along they go, let's sell this business and take the cash. And then
even the cash, like you should, but you should be able to invest the cash. Yeah. Like I don't know, I guess it's all different, and money's very relative. So if your mum gave you, $100,000 and you had no money, that would be a lot of money.
That's right.
Obviously, I think she's going to give him like $12 million. So he's doing great.
We are in like Oxley. Anyone wants to look that shit up? Yeah.
I'm just joking. But whatever your parents give you, you can invest it and grow it. And I don't expect you to retire. Right. Where your mum gives you some inheritance, it won't be like, oh, sweet, never working again. But when you get a large sum of money, the tendency to do that is much higher. Yes. But really, you should be like, listen, you should be investing in things. You should be. I guess the purpose of life is to work as much as it is to fail at things and try again. You need to work. And I think there's some really interesting data on older people that retire from working career jobs, and then they basically just break down and die because they sit around and do nothing, and your body that's
the thing.
It goes.
A lot of I used to work in sort of the legal profession-y area, and a lot of people I know. This is like colloquial. Just conversations, not stats or anything. But some of the older lawyers were like, we're really afraid to retire because like a lot of our friends retired and they got dementia and died. And I was like, that's really morbid. They're like, no, legit. So 65, 70, it is a real thing. Retired, went down the tubes.
Might be an
died.
anecdote, I was but I think man specifically is made to work.
But men seem to have it harder when they retire sometimes.
Definitely. Like even the reason like women just outlive it. And there's probably lots of reasons, frankly. Having known many a man in my life, there's lots of reasons women live longer than us, but there's probably part of it is like men are meant to work.
Sure, I can jump this 5-meter tree with this like 4x4.
You have not, like what's the most dangerous thing to tell a man is, just give him an athletic feat and then they'll pretend that they're 17 again. Like, I can do that.
like some daughter.
Okay. Steve, you can't do it. You're like 37, mate. You're not 17. You have no athleticism left. You can't be jumping over fences. You fucking moron.
Just to say,
But there you go. Very, very interesting.
Hey.
Okay. Anyway, look. So, working, good. Being a lazy, no good, dirty, rotten, trust fund baby, bad. The Matrix is bad because there is no life. It is a simulation, obviously. And the pursuit of hedonistic pleasures, what's that doing for you, really?
Garbage.
Well, again, if it's not a religious thing, but obviously you have one life, you really want to waste it just in a computer game?
No. I was going to jump on this because Brendan sent us something and I'm assuming we've got to...
Let's have a look at what Brendan says.
It's a little fact on the millionaires and if they inherit their wealth or do they make it. And most millionaires, it says that we believe that 74% of millennials believe that millionaires inherited their money and more than half of the baby boomers think the same thing. However, only 21% of millionaires received any inheritance at all. Only 16% inherited more than 100 grand. And only 3% of those received inheritance of... at or above $1 million. So that's probably an American stat, but I think that's somewhere about that. Like most people with a fair bit of cash actually didn't inherit it.
That's what. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Generally, it's like most people don't inherit money. Most people that make money are self-made people because they're the way money works. And I'm kind of dabble a little bit in finance. Like you just need to be active. You can't just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
You need. Yeah. If you're doing things, you're investing in stuff. You have purpose. You can definitely. Make a lot of money, and it's money begets money. So if you make more money, it's easy to make more money.
It's easy to blow more money.
It's easy to blow more money.
Well, yeah, I think what
be
you
a little
before,
bit sensible. But, get off the money track for a second.
Yeah. Well, unless you're really, like, I'll just finish the thought, I guess. But unless you're really, really like you had a lot of self awareness, and you were very well taught in that way. I think it's pretty much impossible. You've learnt no hard lessons if you've just been given the money.
Almost
you
like
don't have any really skills
in a matrix.
So you have to,
In some
the
kind of
matrix
simulation.
thing, I think for the first thought of me, because this was introduced to me probably at like uni in some sort of thought experiment class.
Did you go to uni?
About,
Did you graduate uni? Was that on your intro? I don't think that was on the intro.
Well, you didn't type it in there, but it wasn't there. And most people actually, funnily enough, when you're younger, below 20, I'd say, they all pretty much wanted to go into the matrix. And I think that maybe because the value of being happy
so high
is high. So if you can just get pure happiness, they're like, why don't we just jump onto that train?
Wow.
I thought that was, we talked about this real briefly a second before we started the podcast, but I thought that was really interesting because I think as you get older,
because maybe again, people, birds of a feather flock together. So most of my friends, I would guess that they would all choose to live in real life.
Me too.
I don't think I've got many, I don't think I've got any friends that I think would choose to live in a simulation.
No. For different reasons, though, I think, from different friends I have. But
for sure, there'd be different reasons for it. One of the probably connections between money and the simulation is if you have, like, if you do inherit a lot of money, you kind of are living in a simulation because
I guess so.
What matters,
it's external forces coming against you. That
you don't really do much. You're just chilling.
Maybe.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, my instance now, I'm older. It sounds to me like some sort of formulated hell. To me, like it kind of scares me. Imagine like a machine that's reading your brain. This is what I take it as. It's reading your brain. It's taking what you want. It's giving you what you want. And it's creating a simulation where you're always winning. And it's like your best life you could have ever imagined. Yeah. It sounds like a hell, but instead of a hell derived from pure pain, brimstone, it's a hell with just pleasure. But where you're like kind of doing nothing.
I think I sent you a quote during the week, or I sent you some, maybe it was something from a saint actually.
Okay, what do you reckon, Brendan?
Okay.
Since we're on this topic, the thought experiment is a mad scientist can fulfill your every fantasy desire. I put this out to Carlton, like, how is that different to the thought of a heaven? When you say, I don't want to live my life like that, but I want to live in not committing sin, so I get into an eternal heaven. So what is heaven, and why is it different to this simulation where you fulfill every fantasy and desire?
That is a great question. And
it's actually
since
a really good
you've opened this up, we're just going to go and basically spread the gospel to the good folks out there on the YouTubes. I think one of the bigger misconceptions of heaven and hell I've heard from particularly people that aren't religious is they just assume that hell is like a kind of like Hades, essentially. Like it's an overly dramatized fires of, lakes of fire and the devil,
like the hell from South Park,
like stabbing you and you're just being tortured and it's all terrible. And heaven is, I don't know, some kind of amusement park, which is not really, it's not probably a very good. It's an easy way to conceptualize, and I understand why. From a narrative perspective, you would want to break it down as heaven good, hell bad, but really, heaven is the eternal union with your Creator. And I know not everyone is religious, and part of what we've got some stuff in the works about sort of the material world and the immaterial, and like how they are different, and if there is such a thing as a world beyond the material, and we'll save a bit of that for then, keep the powder dry, so to speak. But there's a really great quote, I don't have it off the top of my head, from like C.S. Lewis or Chesterton or something about hell and what it is, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's not so much that you're being tormented, it's that you are forever absent your Creator.
Right.
And I think man is born conscious and spends our entire existence looking for things to fulfill us that aren't God. And most of us, again, you might find the odd Brendos who's just an absolute weapon, who is very fulfilled and happy. But a lot of people you can just objectively look at and talk to, and if they even think about living in a Matrix style fantasy world, they're not fulfilled people. They don't have any sense of meaning or direction in their life, and they want to fill that center in their being that God should be in with something else, with carnal desires, with sort of pursuit of pleasure. So I would say the difference between this and a heaven to me would be like, heaven's not so much a place to go and play ping pong for 70 hours and have a great time and drink beers and whatever, but it is kind of the fulfillment and union of your soul on earth with the Creator. That's how I would look at it. I've never spent a great amount of time thinking about heaven or hell, who's going where. It's not something that really interests me that much, to be perfectly honest. A lot of Christianity, and I'll speak as a Catholic, is not I can't speak of other religions, obviously, because I don't know them that well, but as a Catholic, it's a very, very difficult thing to impose upon yourself, is to go against your innate natural desires and try to live a life with a standard of X high. Right. And that's certainly, I think, it's a very noble thing we should be doing. I think men are very much happier when they impose duty and honor onto themselves than, litter on the street and just, live for yourself and only the base desires that you have when you have them. So that's how I would kind of summarize it.
And what does it look like?
Actually, you know what the quote is about hell is like, hell is something about, I can't remember exactly, but it's something about you go to hell and you have nothing to do but amuse yourself. Something like that. And then essentially like you can't amuse yourself because amusement is a means to an end, and in hell there is no end. So you're just sort of constantly looking like there's nothing I'm just constantly on this.
Right.
I can't amuse myself. I'm here by myself. There's nothing, I can't do anything.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
Brain in a jar.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, what am I can't, there's no next.
Yeah.
So I think that's fairly interesting. I think that's vaguely what.
So what do you reckon that, like, I know you say you're not really thinking about, what do you reckon that looks like? Is it just like an internal feeling of like happiness or something, and an internal feeling of like emptiness, or?
I think maybe even more than like happiness, because I'm not really a big fan of happiness as I feel happy very briefly when I see
internal feeling of love and oneness.
Yeah, I think it'd be definitely like a love would probably be like a warmth. You ever had morphine?
Never.
That's pretty much how I feel. Just super warm.
Yeah.
And just
so what if you got morphine in that hell version? Sounds pretty good.
I don't know.
No negative effects.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
But here's interesting,
because there is like a point where, depending on how deep we want to go into like a more the nature of a soul or whatnot, but there is a point, obviously, which people in hell don't make it. To spoil the ending of Revelation, where that's the end,
So it's not eternal. They all get like
your eternal wailing and gnashing of teeth is not so much you being punished by the devil. You're absent God, and what that actually looks like is not very good, not very much fun.
But here's the interesting point what Brennan makes, which what made me think, and I think Brennan was maybe getting at. So this version of this machine would simulate exactly whatever the hell you're explaining. Yeah. So you wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So it would be like an eternal feeling of love and oneness. And that's where I think when Brennan said that, I was like, okay, this is actually where this paradox.
That's where you want to go.
Yeah. I was like, hang on.
Yeah.
Now that makes sense because it's actually just generating whatever the hell you really desire.
I don't want
forever?
fake though. Do you know what I mean? I'm not interested in fake.
But you wouldn't know. This is the whole thing.
Yeah, you do know because you have to make a decision to do it.
At the beginning,
So you have to make a decision where do you want fake diamonds and rubies that no one else, including yourself, knows are fake. Yeah. I would rather not have that. And part of the benefit of being a Catholic is it's all real. So you don't have to worry about it being a fake situation. So that, I mean, maybe I've done a poor job explaining.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Relatively, suffering is the point. The point of being a Christian is to pick up the cross and carry it. When that's the whole religion. It's like, hey, guess what? You're going to suffer. It's going to be kind of hard, but you're going to enjoy it.
In the simulation, now it's reading your brain. It's saying, we're going to make you suffer exactly like a perfect Christian and put you through everything. You're going to triumph at the end.
That sounds terrible.
But it's still...
Who would choose that? Who would?
That's what you're choosing right now.
You're choosing that in real life.
Yeah, but you're choosing that in a simulation.
If I wanted to do a simulation, I wouldn't be going, this would be great to live a super Christian life. It's way harder. It's against
it'd be a hard life.
It's all the natural inclinations of man basically called to forsake them or fulfill them in a what's the right way of saying it? The spiritual kind of fulfillment of X. Your desire to have sex is fulfilled in matrimony to procreate and have children, and it's good and ordered. Do you know what I mean?
So you desire not to get in this machine. Now you have to forsake that and get in the machine. No, I'm just joking.
No, I just think it's interesting because that's not, I guess, and maybe if you wanted to tweak it and just try and make it find some person's idea of heaven. The problem is it's still not real, even if you don't know it is or if it isn't.
That decision, I think, to make that would be like
to choose to go in. And like I said, if I was going to choose, if I was ever in a situation where it was, hey, do you want to choose this? I wouldn't be choosing to live a dirty, rotten, tough life because it's not more fun.
Yeah,
you know
that's
it's
right.
not necessarily.
No one makes stuff hard on themselves on purpose.
Yeah, that's why I think it's quite interesting, the psychology behind. This is why it's true, I guess. It's just like it is in contrast to what you would assume is right. It takes a little bit of wisdom and, contemplative thought to realize like maybe this is correct or this is like it's fulfilling in a way that gives you satisfaction that you might not find elsewhere, but it's not necessarily just loads of fun all over the place. Do you know what I mean? I think we would all agree. You're not married, actually, so you probably wouldn't. You wouldn't have any idea. But you just have more time to amuse yourself or to chase after things that you enjoy. And being a handsome young chap, it's probably very easy to do.
Yeah,
just
sure, why not?
Lots of attention, great dancer.
Utter garbage, by the way, but yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
No, but there's, you're, I don't want to make you sound like a bad person or anything, but your main focus is like yourself. You look after yourself. Yeah. This is not trying to slag you off or anything, but it's like you don't have anybody else to. I know you look after people, you're not a terrible person, but like your main thing is like, I wake up in the morning and, I got to get myself to here and here. And that's pretty much,
I think I'm a bad example, but I know what you're saying.
Probably, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I understand you take care of some people, which is great, but there is being a bachelor certainly is a lot more, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more enjoyable. You don't have to worry about, wiping butts and dealing with terrible twos and just having to put yourself out.
Right now. Can I have 3 more beers? And you go, yeah, sure. I could have 10. No one's even here.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Look, I remember you and I, when we were bachelors back in the day, just talking for hours on like a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
I can have 4 hours of sleep. I can have 2 hours of sleep. I have no sleep. I just can't rock up tomorrow and do
no one's counting
day.
On me tomorrow. Did you know?
No, it's fine. Yeah. And I can sleep 12 hours the next day. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you have
responsibilities are low,
a wife and children, you are called to put their needs above and beyond yours. Yeah. Or what a good husband and father would do is put his wife and children above himself.
Yeah.
Obviously there are some bad people out there, but what the ideal of being a husband is you're kind of last. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a really good point you made. I think that really highlights the fact of when you're making that decision of going in the machine, the person who makes that really, really without any conscious regret on it is someone who thinks that they only matter. Therefore, my personal experience only matters. I don't give a shit about anyone else and the responsibilities are low. Mm-hmm. Then maybe you might be more inclined to jump in the machine. I can see that thought process going out in some way. But if you believe there's external people and things that matter and are important, more important than your own personal crappy experience, then you wouldn't get in. There's a thing in the back of your brain you would do. But if you don't believe in that at all, and it's only you going through life experiencing your personal
isn't that kind
experience,
of sad,
you'd probably
though?
jump in.
Like, I just feel like that person needs a hug. Probably. Someone just tell them it's
they're
okay.
probably wanting to get in the machine.
That's why they get a hug in the machine.
You get in, it's just you. This is what your brain all wanted. You're like, oh, for shit's sake. No.
How do I get out of here? I've had my hug. I'm fine. What do you think about that? Because that's actually a very interesting point. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think that at all about like that's a very interesting point. Like, could it? I mean, this is the problem is it can't really pick into my brain about like what heaven is. I have no idea what to expect. And like I said, it's not something that I dwell on because I've got kids, mate. I've got things.
Well,
I've got real things
like,
to think about.
I'm not really like technically Christian. I guess I don't really say that too much. You're saying Catholic thing. I'm saying I'm just a kind of like spiritual guy. Yeah. I would probably think about it then more than you would because sometimes it comes across my brain. I think, oh yeah, Rob. I feel like in society it comes up a fair bit. Like I was going to mention this. I'll probably talk about it now. But I used to, you go down certain paths. I used to watch a lot of this stuff with my mum. Just I think it was cool at the time. A lot of like psychic stuff.
Yeah,
like I remember when the John Trostnova with John, whatever his name is.
Like I don't have a TV.
And there was some other bloke who used to do it.
I vaguely don't know what you're talking about
John
at all.
Stevens. It was a guy in the like 15 years ago used to be the guy was like, I'm thinking of an M and be like, I know an M.
It's like this, like
me.
the Real Life Focus, that movie with Will Smith, where he's like in there, he's just hustling people out of money.
They say mentalism, it's like a bit of a lie, some people say.
But then there's actual people are very persuadable. I've seen some shit on like late night shows where a guy is like basically holding up letters throughout the star thing. Yeah, the star thing.
That came up on my feed.
No,
I think it's just the collective bullcrap that's Facebook and Instagram
people,
send us. That was
the algorithm is all all over us.
Yeah. We got singles.
We need to get back.
Just videos.
Yes. Oh my god.
Not singles in your area. That's my suburb. How do they know? I did see that, and everyone in the audience said the same thing.
I've always been a relatively contrary. Like, this, I'm a little bit more argumentative than the average person. I just can't believe that everyone in the audience did the same
thing. I guess we're talking about something, I guess, if someone's watching doesn't want to talk about really, really quickly. I think it was like the James Corden show. There was a mentalist on. I think there might have been some other couple of celebrities. And he was like, everyone draw a piece of paper, they draw something. And he went around and every single person had drawn a star.
Yeah.
And like everyone was like, wow, we've all drawn a star. And then he was like, but that's bullshit because I actually showed you the words STAR secretly in the last 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, no.
Oh, so my mind is that feeble. Yeah. Get in the machine, you piece of shit.
But I agree with you. Everyone in the whole audience drew the exact same star.
It was like
what the fuck's a star? It was like this shitty star in a circle.
What's this first
done.
one? What is that?
This is called it's Cameron's tired.
It was not good. It was not good.
I've just been told we can all see it, and we can also see the terrible drawing I did with his name.
I just don't know. Yeah. Like again, I've always been. I'll tell a funny story that I think kind of encapsulates. And I'm sorry to Bob, great guy, older fellow. And one of my buddies, Graham, can attest this is a real story, no BS at all. This is dead set real. In Tasmania, we're out at a monastery, having a great time, kind of a spiritual retreat with some of the boys. And afterwards, this older gentleman named Bobby, really nice guy. I said, look, I've got a bit of a headache. I need to get a Panadol. And he's like, you don't need a Panadol. That's ridiculous. Let me take away your headache. And I'm like, okay, here we go. It's going to get pretty weird. And he's like, okay. So he starts sort of touching me on the head. Right. And he's like, now you can feel that here. I'm like, yeah, I can feel that, obviously. And he's like, well, can you feel this over here? I'm like, yes, I can. He's like, great. So now I've just proven that I can move sensation around. I'm like, I'm not following. He's like, shh. Just, I want you to focus. You doing this, by the way. So this is real. No, I was really playing along. It's very, very charitable. Okay, and nice. He's playing along. He's like, now let me, he's kind of holding my head a little bit and kind of donked me or something. And he's let me take away.
Can you feel this needle in your arm? Like, oh, I can.
And he's like, let me just take that energy away. Let me just take it away. Right. He's like, it's in my hand now. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I was seriously, really lovely guy. Like, honestly, a pretty intelligent dude. Like, very cool guy.
And it worked?
Fucking didn't work. No, but I was very charitable. And I just said, oh, yeah, that feels good. And I sold it so well that everyone, there's like 6 people there. They were like, oh, great. Oh, and as soon as Bob left, I was like, anyone have a Panadol? I've got a terrible headache. It's like, this is rubbish.
You told me another story recently. I thought you were going to say, like, if you go outside, take your shoes off, stand in the grass.
That's real. That's real stuff.
I've done that, and that does work.
It does work.
Depending on what the feeling is.
Have a glass of water. If you have a headache, have a glass of water. Go outside and just stand in the grass for 5 minutes. You will literally have no headache. It's incredible.
I've done the thing where I might have said this in response, but I saw some dude on Survivor.
Yes.
I think it was Survivor in China. And there's this dude, and he was like into like sort of like chakras
and
stuff, and he pulled this thing. He was like, I'm pulling the bad energy out of this spot in your head because this is where the headache is. This part got really, really red, and the guy was like, yeah, headache gone. And I've done it, and it bloody works depending on what type of headache it is.
How good.
But I actually think it's because you're like fully bruising your face, and the blood is like rushing
to fix it.
Yeah, imagine if you put a heat weed on your head.
Yeah,
Might
could
maybe
be.
do the same thing. But I don't
Listen, what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah.
there's many, of these things that maybe aren't that.
Right. I've seen the Penn and Teller version of that where they're like, well, basically 9 times out of 10 they get 3 plants in the audience, and they just go, "Did you feel that?" And they go, "Yes, I did."
Thank you so much, you piece of crap. Okay, this is terrible.
So I've just drawn this star, and we're talking about heaven and hell. Brennan said through, that's an inverted pentagram, the most notable widespread symbol of Satanism. I'm like, well, thanks, man. And I was like, that's not the star I was going for. What's the other bloody star? I don't know, whatever. It's the star people draw. It's not the one that's bad.
Very good.
Oh, it is too.
Good.
It's the one in a circle.
Yeah,
Lord,
maybe
what
there
have we
was
done?
some like sneaky, no good actions. I think my
Maybe.
dad told me when he was a younger kid, he was at some carnival in Jindalee, and they had like a hypnotist.
Yeah.
And he's at the, being hypnotized, and he's probably like 13, and the hypnotist is doing his routine, and then you're getting sleepy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And the hypnotist is like, "You're gonna go to sleep," and boom, you're asleep. And he's closed his eyes, and he's kind of and then he's turned around, and he's going to the crowd. "Look at what I've done!" And Dad just sort of opened his eyes, like, "This guy, like, what's this guy doing?"
Oh, did he?
Some BS,
joke.
yeah. Apparently, I probably embellished slightly because the story gets better every time I hear it. It's just always.
I
better.
was the hypnotist.
Hypnotizing someone else. No, but it's always the way with stories. But
Well, they say
it
that,
does seem that
it only works on certain
It doesn't
people.
really. It only works on.
You have to be suggestible or something.
Yeah, and that term seems like a polite way of saying you can't have much going on. You have to be kind of a little.
Well, my mum was saying she can't be hypnotized, and I don't think I can.
I've
either,
met
'cause
Beryl.
tried,
and I
and it's
believe
not.
that she's not.
She's
capable.
like listening.
She's paying attention. She's like, I don't think this is anything at all. Let me just get rid of that headache. That's just not going to work at all.
Yeah.
You idiot.
Can you give me? It's like, you've got $1 million. I'm like, I do.
Okay.
No, that's crazy.
Circling back to the machine.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to go in.
I don't want to go
because
in.
it's not
It's fake.
real. I guess is the
Garbage.
main thing is it's not fake.
And also, you're giving up all your power. You don't really know what's going to go on in there. The whole thing just like freaks me out.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, that's a technological aspect that I'm not sure is in keeping with the spirit of the
Yeah, I
argument.
get what you're saying.
But I do want to kind of hone in more because you've kind of battered me around a little bit with my.
Yeah. Did I?
Not really. I
forgot what I was going to say. We're going to the psychic thing. Sorry, I finished that point. There was a few psychics that used to say that I'm talking to people from the other side, whatever. Right? Tell us about it.
I don't know about that.
I really want to know. Like,
That's
if you
some
actually
bullshit.
tell me what the hell they're saying, because like you
not
can't just be
real.
like dogs and friends. Do you have
But
those?
people,
I'm like, I do.
people feel like that is sad because I feel like that's just a straight scam. He's walking around like, do you have an aunt in your family? Yeah, mate, we've all got aunts in our family. What are you talking about? I can hear that she loves
actually,
you. Like, come on.
But the girl was saying that, like, so why isn't Hitler? They say like, why isn't Hitler come through? Why isn't so and so come through? And like, sometimes I used to watch a fair bit, and they all have a different version of psychic. So some people see images, some people get voices, blah blah blah. They all kind of vaguely do say that like the other side is like just a realm you can't explain, and that when you do like their version of like good and bad,
It's going to
is
be
like
very.
absence.
Don't do this at home. Like this is some straight
No, but
exorcism
they do say
stuff.
that
This is
their
not
version of hell
good.
is like an absence.
Everything
they do explain it like a
sounds
darkness.
Terrible about this.
That's what you're explaining there, like an absence from light. It's
yeah,
like light
that
and
is
dark.
kind of like
Yeah.
why you shouldn't be trying to bring these people back. That is
Right.
terrible. Keep that door shut. They had the chance. What are we doing? This terrifying stuff. When I was younger, I feel like when I first met you 10 plus years ago, and we're just carrying on, I loved horror movies.
Right.
Thought they were so cool. Loved to watch them. I'm like a massive scaredy cat now. I have no
Really?
interest.
I always hated horror movies.
Don't like horror movies at all. I used to love it. And then maybe it's because if anything goes wrong now, I'm the guy who's got to get up and like go down the basement, check out what's going on. Like, I don't need images of some like ghost coming out the wall. Like, that's okay. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm here ready to fight an intruder. Please be a human that I can
I agree
fight.
with that.
I don't know.
I'm okay with human-based ones where it's like a creepy dude.
Human-based ones
Yeah.
fine. Like I've never been scared of human-based ones because I'm like, if I, like the whole, what's that guy, like the chainsaw dude?
Yeah, the Texas
Like,
Chainsaw Massacre.
mate,
yeah.
this guy's walking about 3 miles an hour. Like, just walk slightly faster away from him. Like, what are we doing? Oh, we're gonna run into the house and hide. Like he's carrying a chainsaw.
Is that a real story? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a real story.
Is
It's
it? Oh, okay, well, that makes
horrifying
it quite
stuff.
horrifying.
But generally speaking, like it's a man, in a what's that one? The Slender Man. It's just a
Leatherface.
tall, skinny man. Like, what's he gonna do to you?
Oh, it's because they keep saying he's coming in your house and
Yeah,
shit.
he's
It's vaguely
coming. He's always
realistic. I'm
coming.
like, okay.
You're like, listen, I don't care.
Let's
But
not
like
talk about it.
anything vaguely like kind of demons-y, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, this is actually terrifying.
No, I've always
I
not
want
liked those.
None of that
And
stuff.
I don't really like the alien ones too much either, to be fair.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially to me, because I'm like, that's probably real. I'll be doing that.
Well, yes, the
Garbage.
ones that could be vaguely, if they're complete crap, right? Like the Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. Garbage.
Some of them
Just
are
an idiot
yeah,
with a
yeah,
stupid
it's
striped
a
shirt
stupid one,
with
yeah.
what is it called?
The Conjuring.
Yeah, I
Extremely
don't really
good.
like watching those ones.
Like
Is it good?
scary. Oh,
I think I've seen
gosh.
that, yeah.
I remember.
Is that the one with what's the one with Ryan Reynolds? No, that's
I have no idea.
sorry, Amityville Horror. No, sorry.
I'll tell you right now, the Conjuring, like just awful. I went with one of my best mates, Daniel. You know Daniel.
Yeah.
Lived next door to me as a kid. So we went home. We watched it we went late at night because we were just super hard and really cool. And we went home and we're chatting outside like, oh, it's really funny. It's like probably 2 a.m. or something. Not a good time to be outside in the dark. Terrifying. And in the movie, there's this infamous scene where this woman gets locked in the basement and then the kind of demons behind her like,
Oh yes, I've
that's
seen
terrifying.
that.
Like so scary. And then I remember walking home and then for no reason other than just being a jerk, I just hear
Yeah.
from my mate Daniel, and like I'm like, you just ruined my whole night.
Yeah.
It's over. Like I'm
Have a good night,
terrified.
man. You just sprint inside, like open the door.
You
smash
got
it,
got your phone light on it, and you just like it's just a crappy light.
and that phone light is the light in every horror
my-
film. So you
yeah,
screwed
so I'm
down.
like, this is like I don't want to go to bed. Every
Yeah.
light's on. You're making like a cup of tea. Like, yeah, I'm not that tired.
And then your brain
Terrible.
becomes very perceptive, and you realize there is a lot of noise at night.
Oh,
wow, there's
so
stuff running
much
in the
going
roof.
on.
There's
Yeah.
some clicking on the door.
Every hedge has a face in it. You're like, was there a face in that this morning? I don't think. Oh, I think so. Terrible.
That's how I
Terrible.
can tell it's not a simulation giving us
just
good
freaking
vibes,
me.
because that
Yeah,
doesn't
freaking
sound
me
like
out.
something
It's
I'd
not
opt
good
in
at
for.
all. So yeah, I think we probably a roundabout way of saying this. Like, even if the simulation was able to simulate real life and just mundane, boring life, the fact that it's a simulation, I'm not into. I'm not about it. Like whatever happens in life, I'm willing to take it on, and kind of go and accept what happens and build from that and learn from that. But I just think if it is a simulation, you're taking out the essence of what life is to me. Because obviously it's different to some people. I know my good buddy Brendos is not religious yet. Not religious. So he doesn't believe, obviously, that you need a God to have purpose in life, or that you need to have, that life needs to have some kind of meaning in that space to find fulfillment. But I obviously disagree that if there is no creator, if there is no purpose to life, in the sense that our purpose is to know, love, and serve God, then what is it all for? You may as well do whatever is better.
Yeah.
Brendos wants to come in.
Brendos,
Just
come in.
say
Show him in,
some sort of agnostic nonsense. So come on in, Brendos. Get in here.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying agnostic, because it did make you sound like I was a little atheist there. Like, I am
Agnostic is just the lazy man's atheist. I'm joking. I'm
open
joking.
to a creator. I just believe it is impossible to determine. So, and I think it's one of those things where you can never know. You can never be sure. I think everyone deep down inside would love the idea of a world, a spiritual realm, life outside of this existence that we know. But I don't believe that any human ever has or ever will know and set the bounds to what that world beyond ours is.
Man, I got to introduce you to Jesus. That's probably the main thing.
Can we just say as a side note, like the computer broke and we've had to go away and fix it, and it's been a bit of time past where we've actually been having some pretty hardcore conversations. So now to come back into this is really like
It's really funny. Okay.
Sorry. It's just a bit of a mind mess. 100%. Well, I think what Brendan's talking about is more scientific thing.
Teasing a little bit.
God is not measurable by physical material means, and therefore Brendan's like, we live in the material, and you can't ever know
I think,
for sure.
I think I'd push back on is I think some of the scientism stuff is also not really provable. We're taking things like, yep, this is the theory. I'm like, that's just a theory though, but we kind of treat it like it's the gospel. I'm like, that's fair enough. Like, we have to believe in something. I'm not trying to go down the full Descartes rabbit hole here, but like
Nothing
sometimes I think people replace like, hey, this is a scientific theory of relativity or gravity or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's just a theory though. We haven't You can't really prove it in a way in which, if that was God and not gravity, I couldn't explain it to you in a way that would make you believe it. Do you know what I mean? But we all believe it, we all accept it, but I can't explain that to you.
So yeah, scientism is.
Do you know what I mean? Like I think that's a very fair, congruent point to make. That I'm a big fan of science, big fan. Catholic Church, big fans of science over here. I just think that sometimes we have a dogma with science that we pretend is, totally analytical all the time. And that's probably, we take a lot of things on faith more than we probably care to admit in the modern world.
Yeah, I definitely think scientism in some realms is a thing. And there's some people who've replaced the higher being of anything with science, which isn't good. And that's generally a bad thing, which most people would agree on. But the theory thing's interesting. I hear that a lot lately, especially when I watch some stuff online with people say, oh, it's just a theory. It's just a theory. But I thought like with science, so with science, you don't really prove anything. You just kind of like disprove stuff. The stuff can't be this. And then therefore the most logical conclusion is this. But when people say it's just a theory, I think theory in science as definition, I mean, I could be wrong, but I used to have this in philosophical debates. Like they said, people say it's just a theory, just a theory. But like a theory is quite a strong, like reproducible, provable thing in science, whereas the word theory in real life, people say sounds flimsy when it's not so much the same thing.
Yeah, maybe it's like a meek versus weak thing, and meek doesn't mean weakness, and theory doesn't mean it doesn't know. But it's certainly, I think the point is it's not...
to become a theory, it actually needs to be like quite testable and
but it's not something that you could take and go, look, see, touch it.
Yeah.
Gravity, you can't do that. And I guess my point is, when I say it's just a theory, if we're going to use a standard to measure, like we can never prove God as an X, like we can't prove a lot of things that we kind of just accept. And I guess that it's become dogma in our modern society. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's a belief that we all hold.
Yes.
Which I think is actually, I think that's genuinely quite an interesting point.
Yeah.
And I understand that, like I'm not coming at this as an anti-science thing. Yeah. I personally don't believe there is any conflict between science and religion.
Yeah.
A lot of probably modern people seem to think, and there's probably some friction from like a Protestant Christian wing that's opposed to science, or they think science threatens their religion, but that's not been the case historically for the church or Christianity in general. I think one of the core tenets of scientific inquiry, I think, is a historical fact, is that Christianity believes the world is understandable. And if the world is fundamentally understandable by a human mind, it kind of follows that there is something that created it in such a way that we can understand.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. There's like a lot of monks and stuff back in the day were doing lots of science as leading forefronts. Yeah,
sure. So that's my only real it's not really a pushback because I love Brandos. It's just more of I just think sometimes we have replaced some religious dogma, and this is just definitely a rabbit hole that we've spent 45 minutes off camera talking about.
Well, I'm just so surprised at just talking about the Matrix when it is such extreme heaven and hell, demons and angels.
But I do think that's the natural place it would go.
I mean,
because the main delineator for us was that it's not real.
Yeah.
Even if we think it's real, it's not real.
Yeah.
And if it's not real, it's not worth living. And then, like, if it's not worth living, why is it not worth living? And then it kind of ultimately comes down
what's
to
the main value here? What's the main
what are we doing in life? What are we doing? What's going on? And this
I would agree with that.
To be continued.
Yeah, because
it's like I think we've had a pretty good crack at it. We both said no. We've had a couple of reasons why. I think it's been a relatively enjoyable. Honestly, the interjection from Brendos earlier about if the Matrix could make a heaven, in my personal interpretation, which is probably fairly weak. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. Would that move the needle? That's actually one of the most fascinating things I've ever had to consider.
Yeah,
because that was really very cool. Very much got me from, I didn't expect it. I was very much thinking about it in the sense that man has mostly hedonistic desires, and Christianity calls you to reject those or put them in their proper place with moderation and sacramental value, etc. And I never considered, well, what would it be like if you just made it like a Catholic thing?
The end.
That would be very interesting. Again, though, I'll get to the end when I die. So that's totally fine. I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
I mean, we could go, we're wrapping it up, but we could go even further and say if everyone's in a simulation like the Matrix, then you're kind of still doing moral and life and you're heading towards the right goal. Is that realistic?
Yeah. That is probably, like, I just want to pull out a lot from that. If this life was the Matrix or this life was the machine, and someone said,
that
"Hey,"
it's not, to be fair,
insofar as we could prove nothing. Fucking
induction versus deduction.
These people. But if we did this, and this was the Matrix, and they said, Carlton, would you like to be pulled out? Your wife, your kids, your friends, all fake. Do you still pull yourself out? Because you don't know what's on the other side.
This is like that story where the guy had in a coma and he said it lived his entire life.
I've
and
seen
he woke
that
up with
tragic.
kids and I was like, right, that's super
Did you?
interesting.
Oh, I
haven't watched it, but someone explained it to me and sent it to me.
I saw something different. It was like this guy. He was in a coma and he thought he had a wife.
No, this is the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. They woke up and he didn't.
Yeah, he's like lived his entire
tragic.
life.
That's honestly one of the most heartbreaking.
It was like it was super realistic.
I think that's horrifying.
Yeah,
it's horrifying. I would.
That's why you don't say yes to
I'm
this
actually
Matrix.
I'm actually not 100% sure. This is like a to be continued. Probably bring it up, maybe answer it in a future episode. But I actually don't know if I could pull myself out now. Although I think, I think if it's not real, I'd pull myself out. But also, I love my wife and kids so much. I think it would break me a little bit if they weren't on the other side, or if they never existed. It would be extremely traumatic.
I think.
And what if you weren't there? And Brendos?
Maybe we're just here to test you. We don't even exist. We are you.
You certainly test my patience. Okay. Is that all you want to say? You want to get any last words on?
I reckon we could possibly do this again in a separate one, but I reckon we covered it all, and I was super happy with this. Really
Two blokes in a cave?
Yeah.
Trying to get out of a cave?
Yeah.
Until next time.
Trying to get inside something within the cave. Catch you later.